Ever wondered why your application works on your machine but fails in production? Containers are the answer, and mastering Docker is the key to your next DevOps role. In this video, we will cover Docker interview questions and answers, Docker certification exam prep. Are you preparing for a Docker interview or the Docker Certified Associate (DCAA) exam? This comprehensive guide provides 30 essential multiple-choice questions with in-depth explanations. In this video, we cover 30 high-impact Docker interview questions designed to mirror actual certification and technical interview scenarios. We will dive deep into architecture, networking, storage, and orchestration. Subscribe to stay updated with the latest DevOps interview series. Which component of the Docker architecture is responsible for listening to Docker API requests and managing Docker objects such as images, containers, networks, and volumes? Option A, Docker client. Option B, Docker registry. Option C, Docker daemon, Dockered. Option D, Docker desktop. The correct answer is C. The Docker daemon, Dockered, is the persistent process that manages Docker containers and handles container objects on a single host. It communicates with other daemons and listens for Docker API requests via Unix sockets or a network interface. The Docker client is simply the UI CLI that sends commands to the daemon, while the registry stores images. What is the primary benefit of using multi-stage builds in a Docker file? Option A. It allows the container to run multiple processes simultaneously. Option B. It reduces the final image size by leaving out build time dependencies. Option C. It speeds up the network communication between containers. Option D. It automatically scales the container based on traffic. The correct answer is B. Multi-stage builds allow you to use multiple from statements in your Docker file. Each from instruction can use a different base, and you can selectively copy artifacts from one stage to another. This is crucial for production because you can compile your code in a large image containing all compilers, tools, and then copy only the compiled binary into a tiny runtime image, like Alpine, significantly reducing the attack surface and storage footprint. Which Docker command is used to stop a running container by sending a SIGDERM signal followed by a SIGKILL if it doesn't stop within a grace period? Option A, Docker kill. Option B, Docker stop. Option C, Docker pause. Option D, Docker ermf. The correct answer is B. The Docker stop command is the graceful way to shut down a container. It first sends a SIGDERM signal to the process inside the container, giving it a default 10-second grace period to save data and close connections. If it fails to stop, a SIGKILL is sent. In contrast, Docker kill sends a SIGKILL immediately, which can lead to data corruption. You have two containers that need to communicate with each other on the same host using their container names as host names. Which network driver should you use? Option A, bridge, default. Option B, host. Option C, user-defined bridge. Option D, none. The correct answer is C. While the default bridge network allows containers to talk via IP addresses, it does not provide automatic service discovery (DNS). User-defined bridge networks provide automatic DNS resolution. allowing containers to communicate using their names. The host network removes isolation between the container and the host. And none disables networking entirely. What is the difference between a volume and a bind mount in Docker? Option A. Volumes are managed by Docker. Bind mounts depend on the host's directory structure. Option B. Bind mounts are more secure than volumes. Option C. Volumes can only be used on Linux hosts. Option D. There is no difference. They are the same thing. The correct answer is A. Volumes are the preferred mechanism for persisting data because they are completely managed by Docker and stored in a specific part of the host file system. var, lib, docker, volumes. Bind mounts can be stored anywhere on the host system and rely on the host-specific directory, structure and OS, making them less portable and potentially more dangerous if a container modifies sensitive host files. Which Dockerfile instruction is used to define the default command that runs when a container is started, but can be easily overridden by the user at the command line? Option A, entry point. Option B, run. Option C, cmd. Option D, env. The correct answer is C. CMD provides defaults for an executing container. If a user specifies arguments at the end of the Docker run command, the CMD instruction is completely ignored. Entry point, however, is intended to be the main executable and is harder to override. Requires entry point flag. Docker uses which Linux kernel feature to provide isolation for resources like CPU, memory, and disk I/O? Option A, namespaces. Option B, control groups, C groups. Option C, union file systems. Option D, chroot. The correct answer is B. While namespaces provide isolation for what a process can see, like PID, network, mounts, control groups, C groups, are responsible for limiting and monitoring what a process can use. CPU, RAM, bandwidth, together, they form the foundation of container isolation. What is the command to upload a local image to a registry like Docker Hub? Option A, Docker pull. Option B, Docker commit. Option C, Docker push. Option D, Docker upload. The correct answer is C. The Docker push command is used to share your images to the Docker Hub registry or a self-hosted 1. Before pushing, you must tag your image with the registry hostname or your Docker Hub username using Docker tag. In a Docker compose file, which keyword is used to specify that a service should only start after another service is successfully running? Option A, links. Option B, depends _on. Option C, priority. Option D, after. The correct answer is B. The depends _on keyword expresses startup and shutdown dependencies between services. For example, a web application service might depend on a database service. Note that depends _on only waits for the container to start, not for the application inside the container to be ready. For that, you need health checks. Which flag is used with Docker run to give a container all the capabilities of the host's root user, effectively bypassing most container isolation? Option A, privileged. Option B, root. Option C, admin. Option D, bypass. The correct answer is A. The privileged flag gives the container access to all devices on the host and grants it almost all the same access as the host's root user. This should be used with extreme caution as it significantly compromises security and is usually only necessary for specialized tasks like running Docker in Docker. How can you view the history of changes made to a Docker image and the size of each layer? Option A, Docker Inspect. Option B, Docker History. Option C, Docker Logs. Option D, Docker Layers. The correct answer is B. The Docker History command shows the intermediate layers of an image, including the command used to create the layer, when it was created, and its size. This is very useful for debugging why an image is unexpectedly large. Which Docker network driver is best suited for connecting containers across multiple Docker hosts? In a swarm cluster? Option A, Bridge. Option B, Macflin. Option C, Overlay. Option D, Host. The correct answer is C. The overlay network driver creates a distributed network among multiple Docker daemon hosts. This network sits on top of the host-specific networks, allowing containers connected to it, including swarm service containers, to communicate securely when encryption is enabled. Which of the following describes the copy-on-write strategy used by Docker? Option A. Every time a container starts, it copies the entire image to a new location. Option B. If a file in a lower layer needs to be modified, it is first copied to the top writable layer. Option C. Docker copies the host OS kernel for every container. Option D. Images are copied to the registry every time a change is made. The correct answer is B. Docker uses union file systems to manage image layers. The image layers are read-only. When a container is started, a thin writable layer is added on top. If a process needs to modify a file from the read-only image layers, Docker copies the file up to the writable layer first. This ensures that the original image remains unchanged and saves space. What is the command to remove all stopped containers, unused networks, and dangling images at once? Option A. Docker clear all. Option B. Docker system prune. Option C. Docker Irma. Option D. Docker clean. The correct answer is B. Docker system prune is a powerful cleanup command. By default, it removes all stopped containers, networks not used by at least one container, dangling images, and build caches. Adding the A flag will also remove unused images, not just dangling ones. In Docker Swarm, what is the role of a manager node? Option A. It only runs application containers and does not participate in cluster management. Option B. It maintains the cluster state, schedules services, and serves Swarm HTTP API endpoints. Option C. It is responsible for hardware maintenance of the physical servers. Option D. It acts as a firewall for the cluster. The correct answer is B. Manager nodes are the brains of a Docker Swarm cluster. They handle orchestration, cluster management, and task scheduling. They use the Raft consensus algorithm to maintain a consistent state across all managers. Worker nodes, on the other hand, are designed primarily to execute the tasks. Containers, assigned by managers. What happens if you have multiple from instructions in a standard Docker file? Pre-multi-stage era. Option A. The Docker file fails to build. Option B. The final image contains all files from all base images merged. Option C. The last from instruction wins and becomes the base for the final image. Option D. Docker creates a separate image for each from instruction. The correct answer is C. In a Docker file, while you can have multiple from instructions to create multi-stage builds, the final image produced is based on the last stage. Previous stages are typically used as build environments or temporary storage for artifacts. Which command allows you to share data between a host and a container by mapping a host directory to a container directory? Option A. Docker run v host path container path. Option B. Docker run map host path container path. Option C. Docker run s host path container path. Option D. Docker run link host path container path. The correct answer is A. The v or volume flag and the newer mount syntax is used to create bind mounts or volumes by providing a path on the host followed by a colon and the path in the container. You enable real-time file sharing between the two environments. What is the purpose of the Docker ignore file? Option A. To list files that should not be deleted when a container is removed. Option B. To prevent specific files, directories from being sent to the Docker daemon during the build context. Option C. To ignore errors during the Docker build process. Option D. To list containers that should not be tracked by Docker desktop. The correct answer is B. When you run Docker build, the entire current directory, the context, is sent to the Docker daemon. If you have large files, like node_modules or .git, this slows down the build. The Docker ignore file works like gitignore, excluding specified files from the build context, making builds faster and images smaller. Which command is used to see the real-time resource usage, CPU, memory, of all running containers? Option A. Docker ps. Option B. Docker stats. Option C. Docker top. Option D. Docker inspect. The correct answer is B. Docker stats provides a live data stream for your running containers, showing CPU percentage, memory usage, network I/O, and block I/O. Docker top shows the processes running inside a single container, and Docker ps lists container status. Which Docker component is the low-level container runtime that interacts directly with the Linux kernel via runc? Option A. Containered. Option B. Docker CLI. Option C. libnetwork. Option D. kubelet. The correct answer is A. Docker Engine has evolved. It now uses containered as its high-level runtime, which in turn manages runc, the low-level runtime. Containered handles image transfer, storage, and container execution. This modularity allows other tools, like Kubernetes, to use containered without needing the full Docker engine. How do you expose a container's port 80 to the host's port 8080? Option A. Docker run P80 to 8080. Option B. Docker run P8080 to 80. Option C. Docker run expose 8080. Option D. Docker run port 8080. The correct answer is B. The syntax for port mapping is p host underscore port container underscore port single quote. Therefore, to map host port 8080 to container port 80, you use P8080 to 80. The expose flag is merely metadata and does not actually publish the port to the host network. What is a dangling image in Docker? Option A. An image that is currently being downloaded. Option B. An image that has no relationship to any container. Option C. An image that has no name or tag. Shows as less than none greater than. Less than none greater than. Option D. An image that is corrupted. The correct answer is C. A dangling image occurs when you build a new version of an image with the same name and tag as an existing image. The old image becomes untagged and is listed as less than none greater than. Less than none greater than. These take up space and should be cleaned up using Docker image prune. Which command is used to scale a swarm service to 5 replicas? Option A. Docker service update, replicas 5 less than service underscore name greater than. Option B. Docker run, scale 5 less than image underscore name greater than. Option C. Docker container scale 5 less than container underscore id greater than. Option D. Docker update, scale 5 less than service underscore name greater than. The correct answer is A. In swarm mode, you manage services rather than individual containers. To change the number of running instances of a service, you use Docker service scale less than service greater than equals 5 feet or Docker service update, replicas 5 less than service greater than. The Docker run scale flag is only used with Docker Compose. v1, v2 CLI. What is the default storage driver used by modern Docker installations on Linux? Option A. AUFS. Option B. Device Mapper. Option C. Overlay 2. Option D. BTRFs. The correct answer is C. Overlay 2 is the preferred and default storage driver for all currently supported Linux distributions. It is more performant and uses inodes more efficiently than its predecessor. Overlay and other drivers like Device Mapper or AUFS. Which Dockerfile instruction allows you to set environment variables that persist when the container is running? Option A. Arg. Option B. env. Option C. Set. Option D. var. The correct answer is B. env sets environment variables that stay in the container at runtime. Arg. Argument. Sets variables that are only available during the build process, build time, and are not available once the container is running. How do you run a container in the background, detached mode? Option A. Docker run B. Option B. Docker run D. Option C. Docker run BG. Option D. Docker run I. The correct answer is B. The D flag stands for detached. It tells Docker to run the container in the background and print the container ID. To see the output of a detached container, you would use Docker logs. What is the default file name that Docker Compose looks for when you run Docker Compose up? Option A, Docker YAML. Option B, Docker Compose.yml. Option C, services.yml. Option D, Compose config, JSON. The correct answer is B. By default, Docker Compose looks for a file named Docker Compose.yml or Docker Compose YAML in the current directory. You can specify a different file using the F flag. What is the best practice for handling sensitive data like passwords or API keys in Docker? Option A, hardcode them in the Docker file. Option B, pass them via the env instruction. Option C, use Docker secrets in Swarm or external vaults. Option D, store them in a public Docker Hub repository. The correct answer is C. Hardcoding secrets in a Docker file or passing them via env is insecure because they can be seen via Docker inspect or image history. Docker secrets, available in Swarm mode, encrypts secrets at rest and in transit, mounting them into the container's memory-only file system. How does Docker ensure that a container's file system remains isolated from other containers even if they use the same base image? Option A, it creates a full copy of the image for every container. Option B, it uses a read-only shared image layer and a unique writable layer for each container. Option C, it uses hardware-level encryption for each container's disk. Option D, containers do not share images. They download them separately. The correct answer is B. This is the core of Docker's efficiency. All containers started from the same image share the same read-only layers. Each container then gets its own thin container layer, writable layer. Any changes made are stored in this thin layer, ensuring isolation without duplicating the bulk of the data. Which command is used to execute a new command, like bin, bash, inside a container that is already running? Option A, Docker run. Option B, Docker attach. Option C, Docker exec. Option D, Docker start. The correct answer is C. Docker exec allows you to run a new process inside an existing container. For example, Docker exec at my_container bash opens an interactive shell. Docker attach links your terminal to the container's primary process, PID1, which can stop the container if you exit. That concludes our deep dive into the top 30 Docker interview questions. Understanding these concepts is essential for any modern DevOps role. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more technical interview prep. Don't forget to check out the full Docker interview questions course on Udemy via the link in the description. For a complete set of practice exams and hands-on labs, check out the full course link in the description below.